Well, so first things first, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Life is good. Just getting back into the swing of it. Heat is really taking off. We've been playing a lot, and so it's been fucking great.
It looks beautiful over there. I don't know
Yeah, I
where you
mean,
are, but
I'm actually on a balcony right now, and we've got some trees and stuff in the background. I figured it would be nicer than to sit in the apartment.
fair enough. All right, before we get into the new album and kind of how you rejoined the band, I would like to start in the beginning. Now, was there
Sure.
perhaps one vocalist or one artist that kind of, when you saw that person as a kid, you kind of went like, okay, that's what I want to do, or this is kind of,
Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, it all kind of started with Michael Jackson when I
okay,
was very young. So when I was really, really young, my parents they listened a lot to, well, all kinds of music, really, rock, pop, soul, all that stuff. And I think Michael Jackson was one of those, like, when because I was a kid in the '90s, like a very small kid, and
sure.
Michael Jackson was huge, right? I mean, and I guess he was in the '80s too, but you know what I mean? So it was like the access I had. So that gave me like that early inspiration. But what really made everything kind of cement itself in a way for me as a musician, an aspiring singer, was when I first discovered Iron Maiden.
Okay.
And yeah, because I was in school, and I was quite young. Must have been 12 or 13 or something like that. And I went to my friend's house, and his dad had this huge LP collection. And we were like, right, let's put on an LP, and let's just take one, whichever one is the coolest, and then stick it on the player and drop the needle. And that's exactly what we did. And it ended up being, it was the first album of Iron Maiden.
Mm.
And my brain just went like, because the first track that played when I dropped the needle was Phantom of the Opera. And the guitars were playing, the twin guitars and all the noise, everything, just it completely blew me away. And then after that, I wanted more. I just wanted more. So that's why, when I started discovering, like, wow, they have this other singer,
Sure.
Bruce Dickinson, and holy shit. So I guess you could say in some aspects, Bruce was the one who really put me on track in a way. Yeah, for
But
sure.
it's funny because, well, as a kid, I think we were of a similar age, and we, when I listen to music, I get inspired, but then I can't sing. So that's next step to kind of enjoying music and then thinking, hey, I actually have a good voice and I can do
Yeah.
this. When did that click for you?
Well, it was actually like, it's kind of funny story because it almost sounds too cliche to be true. But I went to this music school, and I was a drummer. So
Okay.
that's how I started. So I started by just playing drums, and I went to this music school in Stockholm, and I met all the other guys basically that I ended up forming a band with, which later on turned into H.E.A.T.
Sure.
So it's like, basically some of the guys in the band, like specifically like Jimmy, Crash, and and Erik as well. They were really pushing me to sing, because up until the point where I was in school, I was playing drums, and I continuously talked other people into playing Iron Maiden material. So I was sitting behind the drums and I was playing the Maiden stuff, and no one else could really sing the parts that Bruce was doing. So
Sure.
so I was kind of singing and screaming from the behind the drums. I had like a microphone there just to sort of simulate the parts. And they were like, Kenny, why don't you just fucking sing, man? I mean, it's like, it sounds good, And I'm like, yeah, maybe. So I started singing more and more, and then eventually I kind of left the drums behind, and I just started singing.
Okay. Do you still play every once in a while?
Yeah, I mean, every opportunity I get, I play. I haven't like actively
Sure.
practiced or anything for a long time, but drums is something that came really naturally to me, and it's still very much with me, even if I take long periods of absence. But every time I get an opportunity, I'll play the shit out of drums. I love it.
Okay.
It's like, I mean, I think in another another time, I probably just would have been a drummer
Fair
and just
enough.
not sing. Yeah.
Fair enough. Now,
Yeah.
one last thing about kind of the music and the childhood kind of memories. What I find interesting about the era of music that people are into, like you mentioned Iron Maiden and those kind of bands, and I was a young kid in the 90s as well, so I never really got to, we weren't alive when all this music came out.
Yeah.
So why do you think that so many people can find something in music that was made, for instance, decades ago, and especially the type of music, type of kind of hard rock or the early metal type of music?
Yeah, man, I think it's very difficult to put a finger on it, but
sure.
there's definitely something special about the music that was made, particularly like in the late 70s and in the 80s. And I think that I've talked about this before a little bit. It's like, it's basically where, that freedom of creation was still very much invested in by business in general, but whether it be record companies or whatever else. And it kind of created this atmosphere where people could really just challenge markets and challenge everything, and I think that bands had the freedom to do that. And it also, I think, inspired, a lot of rock bands to really use modern technology at the time, and create as much cool stuff as they could with what they had. And I think that the music today suffers a little bit of the same thing. Like, basically, we have too much technology. So it's like, and the more you water down, I think, hard rock in general, or any kind of metal, really, I suppose maybe I see things through a very different lens. Other people would disagree with me, but ultimately I think that style of music is organic, and you can hear that it's people playing, it's like, you can really tell that it's an awesome guitarist playing that really cool solo. You can hear it. Like, you don't have to be an expert musician. There's just something about it that you hear. It sounds human, but it has this power to it, Sure. And I think that's what's so awesome about hard rock, any kind of rock, really, that's different from other things. And I think people just like you, me, and lots of other people of our generation, and other people as well who listen to that kind of music, really recognize that,
Yeah, definitely. I think so. It feels really warm and energetic in a way.
Yes.
And kind of yes. like you were there, but obviously it's an interesting feeling. Now,
yes.
Before we head on to the new album, how do you now look back at the first two albums of H.E.A.T, where you were the lead singer? What are your thoughts now on those two albums?
Well, I think those two albums were very much like a snapshot of time, like we were basically coming to some kind of maturity, in terms of our musicianship and who we wanted to be as musicians in a way. So we took like the first and the second album, specifically the first, I would say, is like a combination of all kinds of inspiration that we have accumulated over time, growing up, whether it was some of the more heavy stuff like Iron Maiden or Judas Priest or what have you, and Yngwie Malmsteen and those guys,
sure.
But for example, we started listening to things like Toto and Survivor and Giant, and like a lot of that music, a lot of that stuff was kind of incorporated, together. So for me, it's very much a snapshot of time, like where we had just discovered this more melodic style, like this more AOR types sounds, and I think that it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I remember those two albums, and specifically the first one, with a lot of I have a lot of emotions for that that time and that sound, and I think it's really cool. But I am very happy with the evolution of the band in general, because I think now the band is a little bit more hard rock again, which is kind of where it begun in some ways. Yeah.
For you then, because tried to kind of figure out why you left the band. I couldn't find much about it. So I'm just going to ask one question about it. And you don't have to get into it too deeply if you don't want to. But the thing I found is where something you said, like you felt like you were holding the band back in some way, or something that you kind of felt like, okay, I need to get out the way so they can evolve. So for you, what was that decision process like? Because that has to be really difficult, but also very honest to yourself in a way.
Well, I mean, I don't want to give myself too much credit, right? Because I was young and dumb, to be honest, so I wasn't a very clever guy in some aspects. I think I would just put it that way. I was young and dumb, and I was suffering a little bit from things that had happened to me throughout the current time. So I had a bit of a heart problem for a while. That got fixed. I mean, I was operated on and everything was fine, but it's like a genetic thing that causes your heart to beat really super fast. And during shows, occasionally back in the day, I'd have to step off stage and catch my breath because the heart was just going like crazy. So after that got fixed, I was still suffering a little bit from what that had meant for me. So I was gaining weight. I didn't feel so good about myself. I was a bit insecure. I didn't know really what I wanted to do. And then it's like, do I want to sleep on people's couches? Or do I want to try to chase that dream of getting myself a nice apartment and just all kinds of shit happening. And so, and I felt like this is not really what the band needs. The band needs somebody who pushes, who keeps going, who knows what they want. And I decided to basically leave the band. And luckily, they got Erik to come in and take over because they couldn't have done better, I don't think. Yeah.
And how much did you kind of keep tabs on the band over the years and over the albums that they made with Erik? Were you kind of still in touch with them, or were you kind of doing your own thing a little bit?
I mean, I was definitely staying in touch with some of the guys. Maybe not as much as we wanted to, because obviously, like this kind of separation, it did cause some friction at the time. I'm not gonna lie, and but that healed, and we've stayed in touch. And of course, I looked at some of the things that they were doing with Erik, and I was kind of becoming a bit of a fan myself of the band, and I was really, really happy for them. So that was a really, really cool thing. Until I eventually basically started writing music again with Dave, actually, no less. And I got really, really sort of into music, into writing music, into creating, into singing again. And then eventually, after a few years, I decided to just basically put together my own album, a solo album, because I mean, I had lots of discussions like with different kinds of bands and offers that I was given to do other kind of projects and stuff, but nothing ever felt right. After leaving H.E.A.T, nothing felt like I wanted to do any other thing, really. I just wanted, like, if it was going to be me just doing my stuff alone, or something with the guys in the H.E.A.T. That was the only two things that existed for me. So
this was Spectre, if I'm not mistaken, right? Spectra,
yeah, that's
sorry.
right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
No, one question, because you mentioned something interesting about kind of becoming a fan of seeing Erik sing, because you had to, or he had to sing a couple of songs that you kind of performed on originally, and now it's the other way around, where you sing certain songs that he was a vocalist on. From a purely kind of vocalist perspective, what is it like kind of delving into his mindset and the way he used his vocals? And is there one song that that he did of the first two albums that you thought, well, that was really cool the way he did that?
Yeah, I mean, this is, first of all, it's so difficult to put a finger on exactly what you do as a vocalist in this case. But I think that what you have to do, when you sing someone else's material, and it's not necessarily a cover, because what you're doing is you're singing your band's music, right? So I think what you got to do is just, you basically have to do everything you can to try to make it your own, right? To make it your own track. And you have to basically apply your own rules to someone else's recipe, you know, and it's a difficult thing as a singer, I think. But you should. But I don't think the correct thing is to try to do exactly what they did. The other singer, you know, and I think that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I think it's important to use your expression, your style of singing, and try to apply that as much as you can to the other, you know, singers' songs. And in terms of this, like, I mean, I've heard a few different versions of music that the guys did with live performances that Erik did with the guys after I left, and you know, some of the easy ones that come to mind, like "Beg Beg Beg" is a great song for Erik. I mean, I think that sounded great with him singing, and there's a few others as well. I mean, I've heard a few, but that's the one that comes to mind. "Beg Beg Beg" is a great song, and there's a few others as well, but I never really went to a lot of H.E.A.T live shows during their transition period from me to him. So I would, speaking purely out of speculation, really, if I said, or live clips on YouTube. But that's, you know, it's different. It's so different, man. Yeah. Like, it's so different. but I think that Erik, that's the beauty, that, you know, that's one of the cool things about me and Erik, for example. Like, we can both do each other's material. It's just that we use our own styles to communicate the songs, and that's what I try to do now when I sing some of this, you know, the stuff that he's done with the band, because they have a few albums together now.
Yeah, they have about how many are there? 5, I think, that they made in the, or is it 4? No, that doesn't matter. But
4. Is a dress tearing?
Let's see. Yeah. Oh yeah, there you go. 4, I think. Yeah. But yeah, so
is dress tearing.
Into the Great Unknown, and then H.E.A.T, the second H.E.A.T album.
Yeah, me too.
Is there one song from those 4 albums that you felt a connection to? That you, it can be lyrically, it can be vocally, it can be just the guitars, or whatever. I mean,
yeah, look, I think there's a lot of songs. There's almost too many songs for me to mention that I really like. I like so much of them, but I can tell you right away that, for example, the first time I heard "Living on the Run," I was like, oh my God, that's such a good song. Like, I really like that. And I know the guys had huge success with that song, and rightfully so. Is a really cool track. But that's a good example of songs. But I do also really like a lot of stuff from, you know, like, I love some of the stuff from Tearing as well. I really like Emergency. We play that as well in some shows today. Emergency is a great track. I love that one. All About Tonight, I think, is super cool. I don't know, it's just a lot of songs, man. And from H.E.A.T 2, there's a lot of tracks. That's such a good album. So yeah, it's cool. There's a lot of tracks.
Yeah, it's cool that the energy keeps flowing then, in a sense, where you really enjoy still the music that you weren't a part of, and now get to kind of rejoin that energy and then add to it as well. So about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I don't know exactly what the timeline was, but Erik at some point kind of felt like, okay, I need to do something different, or I want to go in another direction. And then you joined the band, and it wasn't long ago that Dave kind of rejoined the band after being absent for a little bit. So now you have that original lineup again, and in the first song, "Back to the Rhythm," there's a line, "Back from the Dead." So this feeling that you're back as a band, as those 19-year-old kids in a way. What is that feeling like?
I mean, it's like, you know, for me personally, it's a little bit like I'm reliving a dream that I never really got to see to fruition. They come to fruition. Like, I always had this dream that we would, get a little older and wiser, and play the kind of music that we just love to play. And now I have an opportunity to do that again, which is just incredible. And to be able to write the kind of music that I want to sing, and feel like I have my brothers with me, you know, just like bond together. We go back to that very fragile young adolescent age together when you discover music, you know, in a way. And we did all that stuff together. And it's just such a, excuse me, but it's such a fucking cool thing to be able to play music with them again. You know, it's not just making albums, it's not just hanging out, but like to have that artistic expression together with people that you trust and that you feel comfortable with, you know. And that's a really fucking cool thing. And I really wish that if anyone, you know, if there's any musicians out there, any people who play music and they have lost ways from people that they love to play with, or it's an old band or whatever, just try to do everything in your power to get in touch, you know, to get back together, because man, it's changed my life. It's a really cool thing.
It's very good to hear, and I think you're right. I always find it very sad when you see these bands that have been playing together for 40 years and they fall out when they're 60 or something, and they don't talk to each other anymore. You're like, you had such a great time together. You have so many fun and interesting memories, and you kind of just I don't understand it, but
no,
anyways.
Me neither. And but to conclude this topic, I mean, I saw, like, I was reading like an interview. It was like an interview, I think, that they did with Steve Perry from Journey.
Sure.
And basically it's the same. It's like the same thing there. Like he's basically talking about this beautiful time that he had together with Journey, and that you know, that it was really kind of messed up in a way that that you can't sort of that is important to try to, like, he's realized in a way what it meant to have that group, and that it was a really cool thing to playing with your friends and to have that connection to music and together, you know, share that with other people. And well, you know, he's obviously not back in the band, but he was reflecting on the time and what it made him feel like.
Right.
And I think that for me, when I read that, that was before I had rejoined H.E.A.T.
Okay.
And but I remember reading some of that interview and really kind of actually get the chance to live some of that, you know, to reconnect with something that was lost in a way. And yeah, man, it's a privilege, you know. It really is, and I am a very happy man for that.
That's a great thing, and I'm happy for you. It's good that it all came full circle again. So with that, Force Majeure, there's also a new album. I don't know.
Yes.
To what extent was the album written when you joined, or were you all together collectively writing this album? How did the process of writing go?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of mixed. So some of the songs were written, you know, mostly individually, and then some of the songs were straight up collaborations. You know, like it was a bit of a difficult time as well, because we were in the middle of the pandemic. Sure. I had just rejoined the band, and we were in the middle of the pandemic, and things were just all over the place, and it was kind of difficult for us. But I think the way that we basically did it was to try to, we tried to basically get together as much as we possibly could and to collaborate as much as we could, and which we did. I mean, you can't get away from that. It's like, if you want to make a fucking good sounding hard rock album, or any kind of rock and roll for that matter, you need that. You need the people that you can feed energy off of or share. You know, you have that connection and that struggle, you know, like, this is good, no, this is good, and that's better, no, this is better, you know, you need that. And so we had quite a lot of that, even though some songs definitely were written you know, by individuals in the band as well. But I think the album strikes a pretty good balance between individual effort and group effort, basically.
Do you write lyrics as well, or is that something again? Okay, so which of the songs were you did you have that story in mind of the ones that you contributed to the lyrics? Which one you really needed to get out of your chest in a way? Which was
like I think Tainted Blood is definitely a song that I mean, I feel like a broken record. I talk so much about that song, but I blame the guys, man.
No, it's good.
Like I wrote most of that song myself, and the guys ended up liking it so much, and the lyrics, and they kept talking about it all the time. So now I'm like in this belief that it's a cool song, but it is a cool song. But it's just that I'm not supposed to say that because I fucking wrote it, right? But it is it's a cool track, and I had the opportunity to ventilate some of my past frustrations, in lyrically. So it's like it kind of brings on the subject of how you discover your own mortality in a way, and overcoming that, and how it makes you stronger as a person. And so that's kind of what the song is about. It's like you discover something that's ultimately kind of bad, a bad situation, whether it's bad health or a bad situation, but you learn how to win and overcome that, and it kind of makes you stronger. And yeah, that's so that's what it is. Yeah.
I find it interesting, this sentiment, because there's something, and you mentioned, for instance, one of the earlier influences, you mentioned Survivor, and Survivor obviously did the Rocky soundtrack and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's something about certain hard rock music from the 80s and the type of music that you make now as well, that is very inspiring. It's very hopeful. There's a certain energy and yeah, it can be, as I say, very inspiring. So for you, is that what music is supposed to be, in a way, that even though, as with Tainted Blood, you have this inner demon, perhaps, but there's a way to overcome it.
Yes. I think that I think hard rock in general, or any kind of rock, melodic rock as well, like more pompous, melodic, big, like Survivor. I mean, it's like, the music itself is quite uplifting, and sure, there's some darkness, there's love, there's emotion, but that's just being human, right?
Sure.
And I think that that's what humans do to other humans as well. We lift each other up, right? That's kind of part of the reason why it's so important to have people around you, whether it's friends, family, whatever. And I think music has a very big responsibility, almost. It has that power to really lift people up, and also like put people together. It's like whether sometimes you'll have people with completely different ideas and values. Sure. And maybe in a shitty chat room somewhere on the internet, they would hate each other, but put them together in a fucking rock bar and play some song that they both love, and they share a beer, just through that connection, all of a sudden, all the boundaries that they've had between each other, they get not erased necessarily, but they definitely, they become to eradicate, and they overcome that, and they have more sympathy for each other. And I think that that's what rock music does. That's why rock, not just rock, but specifically, I'd say in this conversation,
sure,
it really has the power to do that, to lift people up, and but not just like make you happy, but like to actually have an impact.
But I can imagine for you as a frontman as well, did you miss kind of that interaction you had with the people, with the listener, with the people that came to the shows? Because you had that for 2 years to some extent, and then probably absent for a while, and now that it's back, did you miss kind of that connection that you had with people?
Of course, definitely. Yeah, for sure, absolutely. I mean, it's been a massive part of my life. I was away from music for so long, but I never knew anything else. For every year that I've ever been involved in music, I've basically been performing live as well. So sure. It's not so. I basically have that connection through music. It's like when I play music or sing music, I've also been performing live. So I've always been sharing that experience with people. So for me, being in the studio and recording all that stuff, that's really cool. And you can do a lot of crazy stuff in the studio, and you can record until you're happy, and that's fucking awesome, right? It's cool. You put it on a track. But ultimately, where it really means something, where it really matters, is when you can stand and look people and stare them in the face and just sing what you mean. And you share. Sorry, there's a motorcycle without an exhaust pipe. And really share that special moment together, you know, through music. And it's a really, really cool thing.
Final question then, of the new album, which was the most challenging song to sing for you?
Wow. Oh my God. The most challenging song. Oh.
Or did they all come quite easy?
Oh man, I don't know. I wouldn't say that. I mean, every song has its challenge, right?
Right.
But at the same time, you have to push yourself. You know, you have to find the sweet spot between what's challenging and what's comfortable, right? So I don't know. I think that for me it was kind of, I think one of us was challenging in a way, but not maybe so much for the energy, but to get the right kind of the right kind of touch on it. I felt like I think maybe Back to the Rhythm as well in some ways, because Back to the Rhythm was one of the first tracks that I did for the album. And to be honest with you, I didn't really know quite what to expect of myself when I did that song, you know, in the studio. I was like, how the fuck do I, because it's like the first song you sing, you record the lead vocals for on the album. And it's like, you know, should I be more like more soft? Should I be more aggressive? Should I, you know, where do I put myself? Who am I today? You know, what am I today?
Sure.
So I think for that reason, but luckily I don't have to think about those things too much, because the guys in the band, they have plenty of things to say about it. You know, they say, Kenny, sing more like that. It sounds fucking awesome. You know, when you put it down like that. So that helps me in very many ways, you know, of course. And I will continue to explore this, you know, because Force Majeure, I mean, it's one album, and I feel like I'm barely back, you know. It's like, fuck, we have demos enough to cover like 1 or 2 more albums.
Okay.
And I'm not joking. Like, that's how many demos we had for Force Majeure. Yeah.
So this is only the beginning of a new chapter for you and the band.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah.
All right. Sounds excellent. Kenny, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. And
No, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you. And interesting questions and fun to answer. Yeah.
Thank you.